There are two major drinks in the world that are black. You know, there's Coke and there's Guinness. But if you were to go through the normal process now of launching a new product, a new drink, it wouldn't get through. It wouldn't get through research. Research would kill the idea of a black drink, and yet two of the greatest brands in the drinks market are black.
Thanks to decades of highly acclaimed advertising, Guinness has become one of the most recognisable alcoholic drinks in the world. Over 250 years old, no territory is more important to the brand than its home market, the island of Ireland. Here, the alcohol industry is worth £3 billion a year, and 1 of every 2 pints sold is Guinness. But Ireland's economy has boomed in recent times, and so have sales of other, less Irish alcoholic drinks. Guinness can no longer take its status as market leader for granted. Effective advertising in Ireland has become more important than ever.
You've got a large number of people, 40 plus or 30 plus, who drink it regularly and love it and will drink virtually nothing else. And then you've got a younger generation who have been exposed to, suddenly, a range of other drinks and kind of want to experiment with rebelling away from what their fathers are linked to.
In this programme, we follow London advertising agency HHCL through the process of creating a new campaign for Guinness Ireland. The agency won the multi-million-pound account after a huge success with an altogether different coloured drink.
Tango used to be a chip shop drink. If your mum brought that home to you, you'd be embarrassed. Now, it's the biggest thing since sliced bread.
You know, nothing else changed. The product was the same, the packaging was the same, the price was the same, the distribution was the same, the advertising changed.
Why?
And they went from selling 1 million cans a day to 1.3 million cans a day, which is a phenomenal increase.
It's the only brand that's second to Coke that's not a Coke brand in the world.
But Guinness was to prove a more difficult challenge. The agency's early advertising messages failed to strike a chord.
And you can feel it in Ireland. There is a sense of tradition. There's a sense of, you know, like, of awe about the brand that people are, you know, are very respectful of, and that can bring a lot of negative baggage.
Then, in the year 2000, HHCL made a breakthrough by getting involved in Guinness's sponsorship of hurling, Ireland's oldest national sport.
They don't seem to have any stoppage time. It just goes, just absolutely mayhem. And it's 35 minutes each half, and you're just like out of breath before the end of this game. And the screaming and the atmosphere in there is extraordinary. When we went to the game, that really unlocked things because you could the looks on people's faces. You didn't need any words, and that's where we ended up with this idea of the photographs of the people's faces in real reportage style.
The lead media in the campaign last year was in fact obviously were 48 sheets and 6-sheet versions of what you see behind me.
The idea was to use real people in the stadium, in the crowd during the course of the match. And focusing on different teams, obviously, depending on which teams are playing. There's a real opportunity creatively, because if you think what these poster sites are, they're huge spaces. They're 20 feet by 10 feet, 48. We call them 48 sheet posters, the ones you see along roadsides, outside cinemas, wherever. There's a huge amount of traffic passing. You've got to think how best to use that media creatively.
The agency took the campaign further, sending designers around the country to customise their own poster sites during the matches with slogans and scorelines.
The campaign was really strong. I think it was fantastic, and the research and the feedback that we've got is very, very positive. I think we've got to build on that though, and to keep the campaign fresh, we've got to take it on a step.
The agency team must now turn their attention to the forthcoming hurling season and the demands of creating a brand new campaign. In preparation for the work ahead, some of the project team have flown to Dublin on a fact-finding mission. The trip will be especially useful for Dean, one of the two creatives who's working on the campaign for the first time. Croke Park Stadium is home to hurling and a museum dedicated to the Gaelic Games.
This has always been like, this has been the centre of hurling. They also play the Gaelic football here as well. It's the home of the GAA. Yeah.
This is how they make them, and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Andrew and I had done quite a lot of research back at the agency online and reading some books and things like that. But being here, you definitely you get a different sense of it. You know, it's we are sort of on hallowed ground. Well, everything you see kind of points you in a different direction. Seeing an old patch on a jersey or seeing a broken hurling stick from 1929, all those things just, you know, they do get your brain kind of going.
Uniquely, hurling fans cannot choose a team to support. Tradition dictates that the only side they can champion is that from the county in which they were born. Nicky, Dean and John are beginning to wonder if this may be a new direction.
Yeah, these quotes are quite good.
Oh, I like that, because I was bringing the cup home to where I started, to the parish. I like this. It really captures that local flavour of hurling, that county level passion. I think this is the best. The clubs and the community, this is for us, I think, the strongest.
I've never done this.
Don't
hit me.
You just can't lift it up off the ground. You have to, yeah. And you can run with it on the end of the stick.
Nice.
Hello.
See? It gets, yeah.
It's only when the team enter the stadium that the scale and popularity of the game becomes truly clear to Dean.
Your first thoughts are that it's going to be a small, kind of localized, community-based thing. But then you come here and it's a massive, kind of professional level stadium. It's immense and it's pretty impressive. It seats 70,000 people now, and I think when it's completed it'll seat 88,000, something like that. I guess that speaks to just kind of how important, what a priority it is, you know, to the Irish people, I guess. So.
There's a lot to see, a lot to take in. It's the smallest, an idea can come from the smallest little things, you know. You never know where it's going to come from. It's really important to come into the pub. We want to drink the product, we want to consume it in a real atmosphere where real consumers drink and what they see and do, and really get their perspective on what they think about the game and what they see as Guinness's involvement in the game. Hurling and Guinness is such a tight fit together. Their values and their heritage, it's very closely aligned.
Some of the images we've seen today and some of the quotations we'll be taking back to London to help us.
The creative ideas should come from the sport, but we just need to be sure that we don't lose Guinness along the way and that we keep that association strong enough.
No, I didn't. His phone is off. Keep talking. We're waiting on Mr. Kavanagh. The late Mr. Kavanagh.
As account director, John Kavanagh is responsible for liaising between his creative team and the client. He and representatives from all of Guinness's different agencies have been summoned to the Dublin head office to be briefed on what's needed for the forthcoming campaign.
The agencies are extremely important in that they add expertise where we don't have expertise, whether it's an advertising agency's expertise in terms of creative development or a PR agency's expertise in terms of understanding public relations and the media. All right, welcome to everybody. Quite a gathered audience of basically everybody who's got any involvement in the hurling campaign, both internal and external. We've got 2 hours. The way I've kind of planned it is that I'll talk for a bit up front. What I want to go through basically is a quick reminder around why we sponsor hurling. What is it that we want people to feel about the brand as a result of our sponsorship that will make them feel closer to the brand? The kind of examples of things that we could do, the kind of feelings and emotions that we would drive are things like Guinness has significantly improved the sport of hurling, enhances my enjoyment of hurling, makes me feel proud to be Irish, are a perfect match because they're authentic and Irish, makes me feel closer to Guinness, makes me more inclined to be loyal to Guinness. And then kind of getting into the experience, Guinness is part of the hurling experience. It really understands hurling and shares my passion for it. So they're the kind of feelings and emotions that I think that we would like kind of people to to feel. When you have a sort of a client-agency relationship, it only works as a partnership. You share in success and you very much share in failure together. However, the good thing is we've learned from mistakes over time, and we now have a campaign in place that is proving to be very successful. The hurling sponsorship is an amazing sponsorship. It's the sponsorship that consumers are most aware of out there. It's doing a great job. It is driving affinity. I think it's 38% of consumers feel closer to the brand as a result of the sponsorship. That equals 500,000 consumers, and that's just in the last year.
Last year's campaign was based solely on radio and billboards, but John's about to find out that this time he and his team may have a lot more on their plate.
There's another piece of research with current drinkers which we got back before Christmas, and they basically said that a real indication of seriousness from a brand to them is seeing something on TV. It would be a good thing if we could do it. TV doesn't have to mean a 60-second epic commercial. It could mean kind of 5-second intros and, I don't know, being clever, basically.
There's little time to waste, so following the meeting, John faxes the agency a copy of the brief.
Overall summary is it reads very similar to last year's, as we kind of anticipated. Talking about Guinness and hurling are both the best. They're my number one sport and drink is what they're trying to aim for. Mm-hmm. This is the really exciting bit. Really want us to look at TV, possible TV. Right. Now that could mean, a 40-second TV ad, or much more guerrilla, much more exciting use of idents.
After receiving some strategic guidance from account planner Dave, Dean and Andrew must now start to create.
What we've given them is a starter, and what they do is to take that on and leap, essentially, and come back with flavours of things, the way things would look, the way things would sound, that are going to meet the brief. So how are they going to deliver that power? How are they going to bring in the tribal aspects of things? How are they going to bring in this sort of goodness, which is the Irishness of the whole flavour of it? Giving the guys sort of 6 days, and which is not very much time for them, but I think they've got the interest and the excitement behind them. They can really come back with some good stuff.
But crudely, at its most obvious, the creative work happens when the creative team take the brief and go away and think about it. And what they need to do is absorb the brief, get what they want to say, know what they want to do, but then not look at the brief again.
What if they're pictures that people have taken themselves? It feels a bit familiar again. But at least it feels a bit more, they're not sort of like documentary-ish. I wonder if you could turn every photo somebody has got, like whether it's their holiday photos or the wedding photos, into team photos.
What do holiday photos have to do with sports and fans? And what was the thing we said before the holiday photos? There's this rampaging hurling fan in everyone, sort of. A fan who's always a fan, whether he's on the loo or his wife's giving birth, he's still thinking about sports.
Wouldn't it be funny if you had somebody who didn't belong to any county, or who didn't know, like he was adopted, or he was left somewhere as a child, so you had no idea where he was born. You had this poor bloke who was like wandering around Ireland, unable to support any team. It's just taking it somewhere that Nike wouldn't go.
That misshapen kind of mutant thing. Singing hurling songs.
Yeah, singing hurling songs.
It's sort of like a vampire thing or a werewolf.
Like monsters in the team, made up in the team colours.
Big horn and a big bulge here and 7 fingers on a hand.
Absolutely no idea what that says. I don't know. It feels like it needs to be just taken somewhere else, I think. I don't know, like what if you got loads of fans and mopped them up in the style of Renaissance paintings?
I think the most inspiration comes from not sitting at a desk chained to a computer, but actually out and about.
Dean and Andrew's ideas have begun to take shape, but to develop them further and to find materials to help explain them, they've headed out in search of some inspiration.
I think galleries and bookshops and video stores are great places to start always, simply because they're so accessible. There are loads of sort of different influences that you can have. You know, you may want to just wander around a furniture store and, you know, just see what you can see. I mean, there's so much out there that you can be influenced by. New Age, no. We are the product of our experiences. We are the product of our influences. You just can't separate that from a person.
That's great. The music on this is excellent.
No, it's really good.
It's quite melancholy and sad. It's a lament, but it's still, there's something very hopeful in the music.
Passionate about it. Yeah,
blues is perfect for that. Because
and also plus there's the whole kind of Irish displaced thing, and that's sort of going on with the blues what's it as well. Art feeds into popular culture, whether it's advertising or film or television, and vice versa as well. And here, you know, we've got hanging on the walls some stuff, you know, that has been on the front of Blur covers, and that's been informed by, I'm sure, other sort of cartoon styles as well. Everything revolves, everything all comes together. It's like this sort of giant melting pot.
Sometimes you do borrow a bit of this and a bit of that, and a bit of that, and a bit of this, and it's not lifting anything really, but you know, what's to say that if we went and did something for some client with an illustration style that was like this, what, you know, is that being influenced by, is that paying homage to, or is that stealing?
There's a fine line, and if you're simply stealing an idea and watering it down, you know, for your own ends, I think that you're kind of missing a trick. That if we wanted to use Julian Opie for an ad, then the smart thing to do would be to go and talk to Julian Opie, because he's bound to have loads more great ideas that he can throw in too. So go to the source.
In British law, it's impossible to copyright an idea, and occasionally artists have accused creatives of making ads a little too similar to their work. Most famously, Turner Prize winner Gillian Waring publicly accused Volkswagen's ad agency of just that.
Having said that, the Gillian Waring thing with people holding things up was also used by Bob Dylan for Subterranean Homesick Blues. And a while back in the Maxwell tape ads, I mean, one person says it's plagiarism, another person says it's inspiration. Sometimes it's probably just coincidence.
Back at the agency, the brainstorming continues for several days.
Would you want to, what about could we do something with inanimate objects? I was sort of thinking of, you know, in those religious shrine type things. Is there something?
Is there something, I mean, I wonder if there's something in, anything that comes from Kilkenny is somehow a supporter.
Yeah.
It's not just the people, it's, like you say, you know, it's inanimate things, or animals, trees, bridges. I don't know. That seems a bit weird. But different.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You know, the Kilkenny Road supports Kilkenny.
Yeah, that's kind of an elegant thing. Let's try to do something more weird. What would happen if some fascist regime took over and then kind of made people stop supporting their teams?
As the rest of the agency's 200 staff arrive for breakfast, deadlines are looming for Dean and Andrew, and it's time to prepare to share their thoughts with the rest of the team.
I think there can be a tendency to talk to ourselves, you know, because we know what the brief is, we know what we're trying to accomplish, which is not to say that someone seeing it cold will understand at all what our intention is or what we're trying to communicate. So I think it's a good litmus test to kind of throw stuff in front of other people and see what the reaction, you know, to it initially is.
Whilst the campaign is potentially based on television, radio and billboards, Dean illustrates each concept by preparing rough sketches of posters. If an idea can communicate its message in poster form, then it shouldn't be too difficult to translate it for TV and radio.
You know, probably, let's say over the course of this project we'll have a couple hundred ideas, and probably, well, there's only, 8 or 9 that have come this far, so...
You kind of tend to sort of talk about a lot of ideas and not necessarily put them down on paper.
Dean and Andrew's first meeting will be with the accounts planner and director. There are several ideas on the table, but 3 will emerge as the most popular. The first, a visual twist on the idea of supporting just one county team, literally from the cradle to the grave. But as advertising regulations don't allow children or babies to feature in ads, Dean and Andrew have made the supporter non-human.
I mean, the original idea that sort of everyone was sort of effectively branded with their county colours because that's where they're born. Why are you laughing? It's this like strange creature.
Irish women creating little monsters. Probably isn't going to go down too well.
No. And they're violent as well, aren't they?
Dean and Andrew have also worked up one of their earliest ideas. Giant hurling players battling it out over parts of Irish counties and towns into a TV script.
These are very sketchy. So Giant Boot is, we open on Dublin Bay, it's peaceful, quiet, sunny day, families and children are walking about. Suddenly a massive foot comes stomping down into the water of the bay, sending plumes of water into the air. It's a huge giant, he's wearing a hurling boot and Kilkenny colour sock. It's followed by another giant foot, this time the foot's wearing Galway colours. The crowd all look up in awe of the 2 giant hurling players as though they're witnessing Godzilla slugging it out with Mothra. So it's really just sort of like all these, just snatches, so that would be like 10 seconds. Great. So it's just like snatches of these battles.
And by far the most abstract idea is called Spirit of the Land. It isn't just a county's population that supports the local team, but the land, roads and buildings too.
You're talking about inanimate objects being county fans also, whether it's a building or a road.
Everything from the land, from the environment in which
that's very interesting.
Kind of supports the land. So which can make again
that's an interesting idea.
So the M1 between Carlisle and Waterford supports Kilkenny is quite nice, that, isn't it?
Up here, this is so exciting.
I think you've got that one in the bag there. Yeah. Because I think potentially it covers and it addresses the brief so well.
Yeah, I think John's intuition is good. I think the giant route is.
I know that you would say, but it's just because to me it combines the passion of the players and the passion of the local community, the support of the people with the use of the shots of the actual county itself. I think it's just so. And we're picking up later on.
Other ideas are presented and considered, but at this stage, nothing is dropped.
We'll be around downstairs.
Good. Excellent.
I look forward to seeing what people say.
It's early days, but Dave's already convinced by the giant route.
Well, the new work, particularly the TV, I think is exceptional. I think we've got a really strong campaign, and I think it's very viable from the client's point of view, and also I think it'll work really well. Having been out in Ireland yesterday and seen some of the work some of the other big brands are doing on sponsorship, it's very ordinary, it's kind of like exactly what you expect, so I think this giant work's just going to blow them out of the water.
Feedback always should improve the work that you've done, and the aim of meetings is not to blow work out, it's to make work better.
The next meeting is with the account's creative director, Steve Henry. Whilst he has no doubts of the strength of the Giants concept, it's one of the other ideas that really strikes him.
A new area, we're talking about if kind of supporting a team runs so deep in a county that even inanimate objects, building or a road, kind of feels that
takes on that spirit,
so it's like everything from Kilkenny or Wexford or Cork or wherever is supports it effectively.
It's quite it's weird, isn't it? I love it.
It kind of catches you off guard in a way.
It does. You start going, no, can't do that, and you go, actually, hang on, wait a minute, why not? Why not? I think it's barking mad, but I think it's fantastic.
I think it's great whenever you think that you've got a piece of work which is okay and you kind of go into a meeting with it and then you realise coming out of the meeting that it's actually not just okay, it's great and there's a lot of potential for it.
At this stage of the process, the meetings become more frequent as the routes are endlessly discussed, developed and fine-tuned. When everyone feels the strongest ideas are ready, and with Steve's final approval, John takes Dean and Andrew to Dublin to show Guinness the work so far. This is the so-called tissue meeting, the first opportunity for the clients to see what the agency has been up to.
First creative presentations are always the most nerve-wracking, both from an agency point of view and a client point of view. Because the agency don't know how the client's going to respond, and the client is just petrified that the agency is going to turn up with something that's completely off brief, or petrified that it's going to turn up with a brilliant idea that's going to cost a fortune.
See, when you're in the agency, there is a sense of like, yeah, this is great, we really want to do this is different. And then when you talk to the client, it does come down literally to, does it fulfill point A, point B, point C? There is a really interesting thing that happens when you've been presenting work over and over again within the agency, and then you suddenly present it to the client. You start feeling less sure about some bits of work and more sure about others. And I guess to a certain extent that's a real acid test of how you think the work is going to do.
Where do you think this route is based in, John? In terms of power?
I think there's no doubt that it conveys the sort of almighty power of hurling.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, I mean, just by the grand scale of what you're seeing here.
Okay, well, from my own point of view, I think Giants and Spirit of the Land, to me, they're the two strong contenders out of the four. That's just...
Oliver?
Number of thoughts. I actually agree with Tommy. I think Giants is... I really like Giants, actually. I think it's got a lot of legs. And it can be taken an awful lot of play. A lot of legs.
A lot of legs. Big legs. No legs in some cases.
Like Spirit of the Land, can't buy Aliens. I can see where it's coming from. I'm not quite sure that it's right for hurling. We definitely struggled. I kind of felt that you were struggling a bit yourselves, maybe to a certain extent, and maybe that's just because it's not kind of a fully formed idea at this stage, as you say. Maybe there's a bit more work. You did an example of TV, but is that all? Are you just kind of recommending TV and outdoor? What about radio press and so on? Yeah. So we should kind of land on what media we're talking about. I think it's great work. I mean, to have two areas that we kind of buy into and understand and think are ticking most of the boxes is a good place to start in terms of the tissue.
Both are coming creatively from very
different places,
separate places.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
I thought 50% of it was great. The other 50%, I thought, very creative work nonetheless, but just not suitable to the brief.
If we don't feel excited about it, a consumer won't. So I very definitely felt excited by a couple of the routes today, which I think is it's a great place to be at this stage in the process.
So far, creating the idea has been all important. The finer details of budgets, practicalities and media planning have been on hold. But before one of the two preferred routes can go ahead, all of these factors must now be considered.
The Giants route is obviously a lot more expensive, so I think that could worry them.
I think we'd like them to go for Spirit of the Land. We have a feeling that the indications are that they'd be happy to go with Giants.
I think they'll go with the Giants route. It's a big idea that they can feel is going to really get a wave around Ireland.
Guinness chose the Giants route for the 2001 hurling campaign and decided to confine their ads to billboards and radio. But as the work moves into production, accompanying TV ads using the Spirit of the Land concept are once again being considered. If you'd like a free information pack and more details about Open University programs, then call us on 0870 120 3613 or turn to CFAX page 627.